Okay, well, good morning. It is 8:30, and so I'd like to get started. Welcome. Just give me a sec. I am sharing the screen. You can see the screen, I'm thinking. Good. Okay, good morning and welcome to this morning's Tuesday talk, working together to strengthen Arabic native language learning at ASD. It is a great privilege. Okay, there we go. A great privilege to learn how to work with Zoom. Bear with me, it's my second Zoom presentation where I've had the controls, so I hope that I keep everybody on the same page. My name is Sherry Lajoie. I am the Director of Language at ASD. I have been in the position since August, and it's a great privilege to be here. And I have met some of you who reached out to welcome me and to share your stories. And I am looking forward to one day meeting more of you and all of you. And as I said, it's a great privilege to be here at ASD to support student learning in Arabic, French, and Spanish, as well as English language arts. So my role is, it's a new position as a Director of Language, and my role is to collaborate with teachers in developing practices that support student learning, and to support school-wide planning and practices, again, that support student learning, both of Arabic as a native language, as a world language, French and Spanish, and language arts. So a little bit of background, a little bit of history about me and what I bring to this position. I have lived and worked in 10 countries around the world. I've been very privileged. And I've availed myself of opportunities in those countries to be a language learner, to learn a level of language that would allow me to ask for directions and go to the market and have simple conversations with people. So I've had the opportunity to learn Swahili and Bangla and Mandarin and Portuguese and Spanish and Bahasa Malay. I have raised 2 plurilingual children who speak English, French, and Danish, and who now work for the UN in Burkina Faso and Jordan. And I want you to know that while I have not mastered Arabic yet, I am extremely passionate about language learning, and I bring this passion and my experiences as a language learner, as a language teacher, as a language consultant to this position. I'm well aware of the research that describes the benefits of language learning, as well as the challenges of language learning. And I'm a strong advocate for student learning multiple languages, and I am looking forward to my time here at ASD supporting language learning here at ASD. As I said, it's a privilege to be here, and I want to welcome my co-presenters, who are 3 of our Arabic native language teachers here at ASD. So I want to invite each of them to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about what they bring to their positions. We start with Hiba.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Hiba Balouza Haddad. I teach Arabic in middle school. I have been in ASD. This is my 6th year, actually, in ASD. Prior to that, I have worked in many schools in KSA, in Kuwait, and in Lebanon. I am a Lebanese from Beirut, and I've studied Arabic language and literature in college. And I enjoy teaching Arabic for natives and non-native students. It's a privilege to be part in this school and being part of this amazing team of Arabic. Thank you.
Iman?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Iman Al-Ashqar. I am a high school Arabic teacher. This is my 5th year in ASD. I have taught elementary through high school for several years in different schools in Dubai and Jordan. I am a certified rater in the oral proficiency interview and writing proficiency test of the Arabic from Actifel. I certified literacy coach as well. mother of 3 kids, the eldest one now in his first years in university, and the youngest in grade 3.
Farah.
Marhaba, good morning. My name is Farah Karoum, and I've been teaching in ASD for the past 7 years as an elementary teacher for natives and non-natives. I bring to ASD, in addition to my experiences and learning, I bring my passion and love for teaching. I'm also an avid learner in any field that you put me in. I love to learn, and I feel that every opportunity that I have in my work or outside my school is a learning opportunity. I'm a certified Arabic literacy coach, and I'm a team lead in the elementary division for Arabic. And I have 2 kids who are currently high schoolers. My son is a senior, and that is making me feel sad because he's leaving home very soon. That's me. Shukran.
Shukran. Thank you. So the goals of this morning's Talk Tuesday is to share with you so that as participants, you will gain some insight into Arabic native language program here at ASD and the reporting standards, and to share strengths and ideas for supporting student learning in Arabic native language, both strengths and ideas that we have reflected on and are processing, but also to solicit your ideas and your input for how we can move forward together in a good way to strengthen Arabic language learning. Throughout the presentation, so we have some slides to share to present what is the why, the what, the how. And then if you have questions throughout this portion, I invite you to enter them into the Q&A box, and we will return to all of the questions at the end of the presentation. So as I say, we'll start with some slides to share what is our program, the what, the why, the how. And then we will move to some breakout sessions where we will solicit your input. So I wanted to start with revisiting the core values and the mission and core values of the American School of Dubai. And I want to invite you to, I'm sorry, I'm struggling because my images are right in the way. I want to start by revisiting the mission and core values of ASD and invite you to choose one word from this slide or a phrase that resonates with each of you and enter it in the chat box. Okay, at this point, I need to ask, Farah, can you see the chat box? Because I cannot see the chat box. There we go.
Can you see it now?
I can. Thank you. Passionate learner. That excellence. Passionate learner. Thank you. Thank you very much. And these words all resonate. I'm not sure what word resonates with me. Every day it's a different word. There's so much in this mission, and again, I feel quite privileged to be a part of this school with this strong mission to guide the work that we do. That's the chat box. All right, so the American School of Dubai, we're an international school community. I'm not telling you something you don't know. There are 76 nationalities that of students that come to our schools, of families in our school community. We have 129 students registered at ASD as Arab or GCC passport holders. That's about 6.6% of our total enrollment of 1,900 and some. We have in Arabic native language classes in elementary, middle school, and high school, 287 students. And the question is why? Why Arabic native language? Well, as the school is located in Dubai, I mean, the obvious why is it's the language of the host country, and it's a privilege to have the opportunity to learn Arabic here at American School of Dubai. Many of our families, it's a connection to their identity and culture. You saw on the last screen that while we only have 120 some students who are registered at the school passports, there are more than twice that who are in our Arabic native language programming. So clearly there's a sense of need, a sense of connection to identity and culture. We all recognize that there are multiple benefits to being multilingual, and it's a gift to be nurtured. There's also a political why. KHDA requirements for private schools in Dubai tell us that Arab students, Arab passport holders, are expected to follow the standards of the national curriculum document for Arab as a first language. And they give us, they update their guidelines annually and give us this guidelines of how much time each grade level is meant to have Arabic native language a week. I need to mention at this point that we are not compliant with this number of minutes given the COVID restrictions and the need to rejig the schedule to meet distance learning and to meet other KHDA requirements. But we're working very hard. We've laid a new schedule starting January 17th that will make us compliant at the elementary school, where grades 1 to 3 will have 50 minutes of Arabic native language a day. Grades 4 and 5 will have 200 minutes a day. And this, at the same time, we need increased staffing. So we have been working on these, on this. It's taking a little while to get everything in place, but we're very hopeful that starting January 17th, that we will be compliant regarding the time that we can allocate to Arabic native language learning. And then of course, non-Arab students are expected to follow Arabic as an additional language curriculum. At this point, it's offering of Arabic in the early years. So the pre-K, K1 and K2 is not mandatory. It is encouraged. We do offer Arabic at K1 and K2 level, and with the new schedule, we're able to increase the timing for all three of those grade levels. So all of the students in pre-K, K1 and K2 will have the opportunity to have more Arabic after January 17th. I want to invite Farah to speak to the what. So what is the national curriculum document for Arabic first language?
Shukran, Sherry. So this document is very similar to what we know as the language arts and Common Core standards. It is a continuum for the literacy skills from K to 12. And this document for the Arabic is meant for Arabic as a first language here and we are using it in ASD. And in addition to the Queen Rania's standards also, which coincide with Common Core and the Ministry of Education. This document is used to support our student learning in the 4 language skills, mainly reading, writing, listening, and speaking. In reading, there are two aspects, just like in any other language: decoding or recognizing the symbols and connecting those symbols to sounds. The other aspect of reading is the comprehension and giving meaning to those symbols. Reading tasks reading tasks that are implemented in the school can start from simple tasks of fluency to comprehension questions, retelling up to predicting and connecting to making inferences and connecting to other subjects in the school as well, in being studies. In writing, students are expected to communicate their ideas by applying the conventions that are taught in the classroom and their knowledge of word study and vocab that have been practiced within the genre in their classes. Of course, the level of complexity is increasing as the grades go higher. In listening and speaking, this curriculum supports students who have the foundational skills in listening and speaking. And these two skills also, the listening and speaking, act as a base for reading and writing. So students are expected to effectively engage in collaborative conversations about their grade level topics and topics that are being read about within their curriculum. Thank you. Yes. Okay. With regards to listening comprehension, this is a progression of the skills that are expected from, let's say, grade 1 up to grade 5. So with little support, students are being guided to answer and respond to listening tasks and comprehension tasks. As at the grade level increases, they will have less support from the teacher and will be able to do it independently.
Next slide.
I think that's Hiba.
Thank you, Farah, for the information you've provided. Now, I'll be talking about the reading comprehension. How does it look like in the AWL, in the word language classes, and how does it look like in the native classes? As you can see in front of you on the screen here, we have screenshots of learning progressions of reading. In blue, you have the native progression, and in green, you'll have the progression for the non-native students. And although in both classes we teach reading, however, the approach of teaching reading is different. In word language classes, students are taught words and are given vocabulary lists, and they are expected to identify these words in simple texts, such as brochures, bills, ads, and so on. On the other hand, students in native classes are expected to know basic vocabulary that is usually used in usually spoken at home. In classes, students are exposed to literature texts and are given tools to attack these texts, understand the MSA or the Fusha, and analyze the texts. In both categories, the non-native and the native students are learning the language, each at his own level. The learning progression in blue indicates the native classes. As you can see, the pace of the work is faster because students in native classes come with the vocabulary luggage passed on to them through speaking Arabic at home. However, in green, what you see, students are taught the words. Every grade level has a reading level, and students are working towards this level or to exceed it. Thank you.
Shukran, Heba. How is Arabic native language taught? This is how Arabic is taught across Arabic divisions in ASD. As you know, the school adopted Readers and Writers Workshop, and this framework identified strengths and needs of students and differentiation, as well learner-centered. Through Readers and Writers Workshop, students acquire the necessary skills to select books that they can read independently, This framework enhances students' writing skills progressively. Similar to FMP, Fontes and Pinel, Arabic 21 assigns the reading levels according to grade levels. If a student's reading level falls below his grade level reading expectations, the teacher supports the students and guides them to move up to the target level. Students whose reading skills fall within or above their grade level are challenged with higher level books to read from. Our classes usually begin with immersing students in the language through reading and listening, followed by a verbal and written expression. Next slide, please. In this slide, this is the structure of the workshop, and this is what is happening in Arabic classes. This is an illustration that shows us what the reading and writing class looks like in Arabic language classes. The teacher models the required work and then asks the student to apply the skills that the teacher has modeled. Either reading or writing takes up the largest part of the lesson, and this is called independent work. The teacher checks on students' work and gives them effective feedback. At the end of the class, students have the chance to share their work and reflect on their learning. Shukran. Sherry, you are muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. And now I need to go back a slide. Hey, in seeing the what of the national curriculum document for Arabic as the first language and the how, you can see that there are distinct links to how English language arts is taught in international schools, and indeed in many places. And this is built on adding an additional language is built on the work of Jim Cummins that describes this common underlying proficiency. So there are transfer skills. When students learn something in their mother tongue or their home language, those specific linguistic universals and life experiences, they all build. So beneath, we can see the outputs in their home language, we can see the outputs in their additional language, and they're all drawing from this common underlying proficiency. The transfer skills that students are learning how to recognize text features in English, they transfer those to Arabic and vice versa as they develop those underlying competencies. The difference, so in terms of contact hours, at an international school, at the American International School of Dubai, students, it's an English international school. So their whole day is in English. Even with 40 or 50 minutes or 75 minutes every other day, as is the case in middle and high school, this is not enough to bring them to the same level of proficiency in Arabic as in English, unless they're coming with a significant amount of Arabic from home. As I mentioned, the transfer of literacy skills happens, but the vocabulary and the fluency building opportunities are limited in the 40 to 50 minutes a day. And that describes, and that's why it's so important that families continue to use Arabic at home and outside of school, so that children continue to be exposed to a rich vocabulary, rich language structures that they then can bring to the class to build their literacy skills. There will be a new report card format this year for the elementary school grades 1 to 5 Arabic. And this report card reflects that the components of the curriculum. So teachers are teaching to the standards of comprehension and phonics and writing. they're looking at different text types and purposes and conventions. So clearly this is dependent. This is the grade 1 report card. The grade 5 one includes a little more. I mean, clearly it's a continuum of complexity. But this is to share with you the standards and what the new report card will look like, with the report card you'll see at the end of semester 1 for your Arabic native language students. In middle and high school, the report card remains the same as last year, I believe, I understand. The listening, speaking, reading, writing, foundational skills standards are not unpacked, but the teachers definitely use the descriptors and the substandards in each of these to plan their lessons, connected to where their students are at and where their students need to go. So we've been reflecting a lot on what are our strengths here in the native language programming, and what are maybe some of our next steps that we need to be exploring and implementing. We're fortunate to have passionate, committed teachers committed to continuing their professional learning. They are professionals, they're responsive to the needs of the students. They have the tools to identify where the student is, if there's gaps in fluencies, and to target their lessons to meet those students where they are at. Over the past 2 years, our teachers have been developing, both in English and in Arabic, expertise in readers and writers workshops, and how to maximize those key strategies to help their students develop both English and Arabic. And I understand, but being new, that we're the first school in the UAE to use Readers and Writers Workshop format in Arabic. Sorry. We are also blessed to have the only school in UAE with 3 certified Arabic literacy coaches who continue to work with teachers outside of ASD to develop the Readers and Writers Workshop. The role that I have come in to support both Arabic language arts and English language arts, I think speaks to the commitment of the supportive board and administration. As I mentioned earlier, we are in the process of hiring, increasing our staffing to increase the number of minutes that we offer to Arabic native language students. And one question that did come up in the chat box that I can respond to now is, we are also in the process of hiring an instructional assistant to support the Arabic language learners that have recently joined Arabic, even though they do not speak Arabic in the home, but are Arabic passport holders and must be in Arabic language. So we are in the process of having an instructional assistant that will assist the teachers in both middle and high school to support those students who have that gap in language learning, to provide some targeted support to decrease that gap. So and this is not a 1-year fix, this is going to be a longer year fix, because it takes time to minimize the gap each year. And we have purchased a subscription to Kutubi, which offers an online reading platform for students to give them a resource to continue to build. And this is an activity that we would encourage parents to access with their students, read a story together, have a conversation around what the story was about, what connections students make to the story. This is a very powerful resource. And as well, we're exploring some options about how we can celebrate the language learning at ASD. And one aspect we are exploring is a seal of biliteracy, which really is an acknowledgement of having attained a specific level, a certain level of proficiency in a second and a third language. So we think that by celebrating the language learning more, that also supports to strengthen our programming and our student learning. we are considering next steps. We are looking at renaming Arabic native language to Arabic language arts, because that more accurately reflects the dynamics of the programming and what students are actually doing they're developing their literacy skills in Arabic. We are engaging in conversations about how to increase the opportunity for Arabic language learning in the Early Learning Center. We do understand that age, they're sponges, they are so adept at picking up language learning, and we would like to also strengthen those connections. And we're building our in-house expertise of Readers and Writers Workshop so that all of our teachers are able to engage in those what we already know are research-based excellent literacy teaching practices. And we're looking at the data that we have to inform our planning. So at this time, I would like to I'm going to return to the questions in the Q&A box towards the end, but I'd like to invite into breakout groups.
Sherry, we cannot have breakout rooms when it's a webinar.
Okay. Back to plan B then. Jinsey, is the only way to seek input is then through the chat box?
Or the Q&As.
Or the Q&A. I'm very sorry. That's on me that I didn't understand that. I am much more adept at facilitating Google Meets that offers that opportunity. I assumed that Zoom offered that opportunity as well. Okay, so we would like to have the opportunity to seek your input. That was the second goal of today, was to seek your input, as community, as parents, of how we can continue to strengthen Arabic learning at ASD. Our intention was to go into breakout rooms and have each of the teachers moderate one of the sessions to collect your input. As this is not possible, I want to invite you to either enter your responses to either or both of these questions in the chat box or in the question and answer. So I'm going to leave like 5 minutes to invite entries, and then I will moderate the discussion that I'm seeing in the chat and respond to the Q&A. So 5 minutes, 9:03. There's about half a minute left if you want to finish your thoughts before we address the questions. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go into the Q&A and invite, take the questions that are in the Q&A and then come to the chat box to sort of moderate. And again, I apologize for not being able to have a live conversation around this. We need to look for more opportunities in the new year to continue this conversation. So one of the questions in the chat box, I'm going to start at the top. I've seen kids in grade 4 in native class not recognizing the alphabet. Farah, can you speak to that? Because that was definitely a need that you have identified in elementary school. And can you speak to what you're doing as a team to address that this year?
Yeah, so as a team, we have identified that there is a lack in their reading skills. And currently, we have adjusted the curriculum to focus on this area. So there's much focus more on written and reading tasks than speaking at the moment, so we can bridge the gap. Of course, later on it will balance, but right now, the heavier focus is on reading and writing.
And somebody asked about IAs in the elementary school. We do have 1.5 IAs in the elementary school currently, and we are constantly looking at how to use that IA support most effectively, as well as engaging in conversations around increased support particularly when we know that students are struggling also in English language arts. Clearly, they're going to struggle in Arabic language arts. And so, how we can support those students equally. So, that is definitely part of our conversation and of looking at how we're going to meet those needs. There's a question about mentioned teachers have time to give feedback to students in class. However, from experience, particularly in upper elementary, teachers focus on struggling students, and stronger skilled students in the same class are left to work alone, sort things out on their own. The teacher has no time to answer their questions. Again, this is the structure of the Readers and Writers Workshop. I'm not sure, Farah, if you feel comfortable speaking to how that structure allows for individual time for conferences.
Maybe I'm not sure about whether the student is in a world language class or the student is in the native class. However, I'm talking about my experience and what I've seen from the team. We are trying to give very personalized feedback, especially on CISO, where most of our work is there. So the teachers give very personalized feedbacks. They also comment and they help the student. They guide the student on how to correct their work. So I'm not sure if there's anything that I'm missing right now from this question, but I mean, this is the way we are working as a team.
Thank you. And I would always invite, if somebody has some specific concerns about a specific incident, to always have a conversation with the teacher and about addressing those specific concerns. A question about why students don't have books that they can take home. And this is a COVID. I do understand there are class teachers have access to class texts, but with COVID restrictions and having there aren't enough texts for every student to take books home all the time and to have them come back and rest for the 72 hours. So that was also part of the argument of why to subscribe to the Kutubi, so the students had always had access to reading materials, authentic leveled reading materials at home that meet their needs. There is a question about communication, and I've heard this before in conversations I've had, and communication between Arabic department and parents, and again, that is something that is on our radar, and that we are seeking to strengthen and to mend those gaps. The communication question. It's clearly, yes, it is a big question. Communication is a big question all around. And I have had conversation with some parents, and I do invite you to reach out to me if you have some concrete ideas of how we can close that gap. High frequency word lists should be sent to parents depending on the level of Arabic their child is in, just like in English language arts. Will there be IAs in elementary school? Yes, there is currently IAs in elementary school. The second thing I didn't mention, in our rescheduling in January, I see your hand, I'm going to invite you, Farah. In our rescheduling in January, we have two, grade 1 and grade 4 are being divided into 2 classes because currently they're very large. And so when we divide, they will be at 10 and 12 students. So there will be increased teacher-student contact time. So that is not an IA in the class, but it is reducing time. Farah, would you please?
Yeah. First of all, maybe I didn't have the chance to thank the audience for their input, and this is really informative. And I hope this is going to be also a starting point from which we can continue to develop and take this feedback into consideration. looking at some of the comments or questions, I came across students speaking accent at home. I just want to mention that in the elementary classes, students are, it is acceptable for students to speak in their own accent. As a matter of fact, the teacher responds in MSA, guides them in MSA, because this is what they're going to be reading in books. And so it's only appropriate for the teacher to draw the child's attention, for example, that this is how we say it in MSA, but the teacher does accept um, um, oral, language from the students in their own accent. And even in writing up to grade 4, it's still acceptable for them to write in their accent. The teacher will still guide them on how to say it in MSA. With regards to high frequency words, Arabic is not similar to English in that, and there are studies that support that. A word like kataba, and I'm sure attendees here will understand that, if the word has different accents, like kataba can simply change to kutiba, to kutubun, and this will change the meaning. So there is nothing like sight words in Arabic as such. And the fact that we are working on phonics in the lower grades, even up to grade 3 and 4, and parents should have received some form of work from their kids. During last spring quarantine, we worked on phonics for like 2 terms even. We worked on long sounds, short sounds, shadda, and all that to help bridge the gap that was between the old curriculum and the new curriculum. And so since we are teaching the student how to decode, there is no need for the student to memorize words. And studies have proven that the brain becomes lazier in Arabic as they take the words as a picture, or if they memorize it. So it's better they apply their spelling skills, phonics skills in reading rather than memorizing. Thank you.
Farah, here I'd just like to second what you said about Fusha and Amiya. As recent studies conducted by college professors such as Kristen Bustard and Mahmoud Al-Batal, and the basic recommendation that came from the seminar of teaching Arabic held in the American College in Cairo, they have all these studies and all of these researchers have showed that Fusha and Ammiya coexist together, and the students should speak Ammiya at home in order to excel in Fusha. And teachers, as you said, guide the students to understand the Fusha, but they need to have a base of Ammiya to help them in their Fusha. The Fusha will help definitely in grammar, for example, in identifying the masculine and the feminine. This is the basic grammar skills that can be found both in Fusha and in Ammiya. Thank you.
Thank you. I see other comments around the middle, the students that aren't quite native Arabic, maybe for lack of the Arabic in the home, or but are stronger than the newcomers to the school. And unfortunately, again, this year, we're not able to differentiate. The teachers are asked to differentiate, but because the students can't leave their classroom in Arabic world language, all of the students are together. We do have dispensation to have the Arabic native students come out to have their specific lesson, but they're the only class in elementary that is allowed to come out and mix. So it means in the class that the Arabic world language teacher has everybody from the student that just arrived in Dubai to the student who maybe has been in Dubai or is a heritage language speaker. And so it complicates it clearly this year. In the past, we've been able to regroup students to place them more proficiency based. Unfortunately, that's not the case this year. So we're not able, within the one class, obviously the teacher needs to differentiate, but in terms of offering a class that's specific to the needs of the heritage language learner, we are not able to address this year. Are there any other questions, Hiba, Iman, and Farah, that you see that
There's someone, an anonymous attendee, who was asked about homework and how can we help students at home. And it's May. So May has asked, although ASD is a no homework policy, will the Arabic department consider changing this in order to help students bridge the gap between old and new curriculum? I'm going to talk about homework. So students and how to help students at home. Students are encouraged to read in elementary up to 15 to 20 minutes a day. In middle school from 20 to 25 minutes just to keep the stamina, and so it's in high school. So students are encouraged to read, and this is the tool that will help them a lot in understanding the text that they're reading and in improving. So I hope I have answered your question.
Farah, please.
Yeah, in addition, I support what Hiba said also, or I second it, because I'd like to, again, stress how much important is reading, because this is where they gain their vocab. Um, um, the topics that are being studied in class can only be limited, no matter how much minutes we add, are still going to be limited because the student goes out of the classroom and is not practicing Arabic in different subjects in the school. So I'd really encourage the parents to help their kids make use of Kutubi, which is like a very good resource for them to read additional 15 minutes. This is different from what we give as tasks in the school. This should be something additional for them to do, because it's only going to help them improve their vocab bank and improve their structure in reading and writing and speaking as well. Thank you.
I hope that we've covered the gist of the questions. As I say, I'm very grateful for your input and your questions, and I will have the time after to revisit them. And if you've left your name, I will try to reach out to you if I feel that the question hadn't been addressed. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here, for your passion and your desire and willingness to work with us together to strengthen the Arabic language learning of our students. And I want to thank Hiba and Iman and Farah for also kind of stepping up and supporting this. You carry the depth of the program with your long history here and with your on the ground experience and class experience. I appreciate that. I also know that parents, please reach out to your your child's teacher if you have some specific requests. They are more than willing to respond to your questions and share how their best practices that they're using.